The biggest weekend of the year for Impact Wrestling, Bound for Glory, takes place on Saturday night from the Cicero Stadium, right outside of beautiful Chicago, Illinois. And quite arguably, he is in the biggest match on the show as he faces off with Will Ospreay, the one and only Mike Bailey. And man, before we even get to what people feel like is going to be like the match of the century, this we were talking beforehand. This background, quite amazing. Kudos, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, thank you so much. My wife and I, we've worked a lot on this background. We do a lot of interviews like this one, and we stream on Twitch and we do YouTube videos. So it's kind of nice. We've been building this shelf, working on it, collecting stuff. A lot of it is meaningful. A lot of it isn't. But yeah, there's a big slice of our lives behind me.
Okay, you have to have a personal favorite. Because I know my background, I got like one or two personal favorites. Out of those, your cool collection behind you, what are one or two of your favorites?
Well, okay, so right next to me here is Gekiochikun, who is the mascot for Lek, which is a cleaning products company. I won this when I won the New Japan Pro Wrestling's All-Star Junior USA tournament. I got this little guy, as well as a year's worth of cleaning supplies. So that is my favorite. Also, Kermit here, I am a big fan of. Where is he? Trying to reach him. We got Kermit. Because I am a Kermit, mostly from the oddball wrestling shows that I've put together in the past, and trying to organize those has me feeling a lot like Kermit from the Muppet Show. But yeah, no, there's a lot of really cool stuff behind me.
This is, and I said at the start and with Impact Wrestling, and I should have said this at the beginning, you can watch Impact Wrestling on DAZN in select territories. You look at, we've culminated to this show. How would you characterize the last 12 months for you?
Man, so 2022 was a breakout year for me. It was the year that I got to come back to the US after a long absence and debut with Impact Wrestling. And so I set the bar really high. And 2023 has been a real uphill battle trying to outdo my previous year. But I mean, it's been going very well. I've been traveling to new places. I've been facing against lots of new opponents. I think, looking at this year as a whole, I think I'm quite close to outdoing my last year, which was a lot. And I think that something like being able to beat Will Ospreay at Bound for Glory would certainly do it.
When you guys were here, because I'm born and raised in Chicago. I was at when you guys were last here, and you had that awesome match with Jonathan Gresham. That was just, as I tell everyone, that was the jam to the jelly for me, just getting to be there live and getting to see that match. And what matches do you think? What matches stand out to you? Because you have so many. You have so many great ones. Which ones like really resonate with you as time's gone on?
There are so many. So the day after the match with John Gresham that you just mentioned, I had a match with Chris Sabin in Cicero as well, which that one was absolutely fantastic. But still, that 60-minute match I had, nearly 60 minutes, 59 minutes and like 55 seconds against Josh Alexander, still stands out as physically one of the most difficult things I've ever done, and one of the matches that I am the most proud of in my entire career.
That's a lot to say, considering everything you've done. You do a match like that. I remember people at Impact telling me they're like, just Bailey Alexander off the charts. And I'm like, oh, I already know what's good. I know it's gonna be good. And they're like, no, like, watch it live. And I'm like, all right. And I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna end here, and it's gonna end here. And it didn't end there. And it nearly went 60. And like you said, this year, it seems like a proving ground because the hardcore wrestling fan already knew Mike Bean. But here in North America, it was like, remember him? Hey, he's pretty good. but let's see how he is here. Do you feel 2023 has been the proving ground for you that you finally felt like you fit in and you belong?
Feel like wrestling is a never-ending battle in that regard. Where so I proved that I could hang, on an international level in Mexico, in Japan, in Europe, and then people were like, "Yeah, okay, he can do that, but how would he do in America?" And then I won Bola. I made it to the Bola finals, and at the same time, I was in Impact. People are like, "How's he going to do an Impact?" And then I became X Division champion, record number of defenses, and they're like, "Okay, he's great in the X Division, but how would he do in like a world title scene?" And then I took Josh Alexander to the limit in nearly 60 minutes and proved that I could do that. And I don't know. Again, I feel like no matter how much I do, there's always going to be something to prove.
Do you relish that, like, that you could say the proverbial chip on your shoulder per se? Do you relish that like, there's always something to prove?
And there's two sides to that. Like the first thing is that I feel constantly just blessed and grateful that I get to be a pro wrestler for a living, which kind of takes off a lot of like the anger and the frustration that some people feel. I had a job for a very long time. I mean, I was a janitor doing the night shift. It sucked. I didn't like it. I wanted to be a pro wrestler. But looking back on that now that I get to do pro wrestling for a living, it's awesome. There is hardly any frustration, but at the same time, I am an extremely ambitious person, and I will not stop until, I am literally changing the world through professional wrestling, making millions of dollars, and a worldwide celebrity. But also, I will enjoy every single step of the process.
Oh, I wish more people took that philosophy. Not it's not even just in wrestling. I also talk to boxers and people in MMA, and they very few have the mindset you have on
Which is funny. Again, back to that match with Josh Alexander. It's something that he and I have discussed a lot, and he's had issues, right? He has, just like me, he's had issues with the border. He's had injury issues. He's dealt with his neck being literally broken, and not that long ago being like, "Yep, that's it for me in pro wrestling. I'm going to have to go do a work construction again." And it's not like there's people that are, I feel, have been pro wrestlers their whole lives, and they just like kind of, without taking anything away from the skill that it takes, stumbled into a very profitable career very quickly without having had to, work like a regular person and see what that's like before getting to, do what you enjoy for a living, which is incredibly rare.
How many times have you wrestled Will Ospreay?
This is going to be number 5. We've had 4 matches already.
When was the first time you guys wrestled?
First time we wrestled was a quarterfinal round of the Battle of Los Angeles in 2015.
See, I knew that a lot of other people didn't, and because a lot of different people are going to be watching this, and you look at 2015, you look at Bola, and you look at 8 years later, and you guys are so completely different. How has Will evolved as a performer? Because people are like, "Oh, he's cut down on the aerial stuff. He's using more psychology," and you can make that argument, and I would agree with that. But in your mind, being in the ring with him, watching him throughout the years, what evolutions have you seen in his game to now where, like you, he's regarded as one of the best, if not the best, wrestler in the world?
I think that, much like myself, Will and I will adapt. I think wrestlers in general do adapt to whatever situations they're put in, right? And I think wrestlers who, for example, if you stay in Mexico, you're going to be great at lucha libre. And I think Will and I specifically have tailored ourselves to having a worldwide style. We have both traveled. I think I don't know on his part, but I know that for me it was a very conscious decision to not want to evolve and grow in one place, but try to really spread ourselves out and learn all the styles. So I think it's we've evolved to becoming adaptable, being able to succeed in any scenario, and I think that is something that uh really like kind of ties us together.
How have you evolved? What's gotten you to this point 8 years later?
Man, I've gotten better. And like there's no there's no specific thing, there's a strategy. I have not changed my style. If anything, I have become more of myself. I have focused on my strengths. And I mean, I've been chipping away at that aspect my whole career, but I've gotten better. That's the only way to say it.
You know, people say, people are looking forward to this match, and can you feel the buzz? Because it's all a lot of chatter, and I don't know how much you're on. I don't see that you on social media very. You're on some because you'll retweet our stuff and like everything, and but I don't really know how much you gauge like and look at the feeds and so on and so forth. But can you feel the buzz heading into Saturday?
I do. I actually pay very close attention to what people are saying, and I mean, I would be very disappointed if this match didn't have as much hype as it does. People are expecting that it's going to be great, which is fantastic because that is the level that Will and I uphold. I mean, people have those expectations because we've created those expectations. He and I are both known as the guys that you cannot miss, the guys who do not have a bad match ever, the guys that always perform on a world-class level. And I mean, that's by design. That's what we try to do. That's what we want to do. That's how you become successful in pro wrestling. You set those expectations, and when the time comes, you meet those expectations, and we always do.
Who's the best wrestler in the world?
Okay, so this is the tricky question, right? Uh, if you ask me to take a step back and look objectively, depending on metrics, I will say, man, again, many metrics. I could say Alex Shelley, right? He's the Impact World Champion. He's had the most storied career out of anyone watching right now. If you ask me, the greatest of all time, the greatest wrestler of all time, right? Across all times, and I think a very strong case could be made for Eddie Guerrero because of how he didn't stay in one place. How he was like not only a world champion on TV in the biggest company at the time, but he was also, super famous in Japan and in Mexico, and anywhere he went, he was the best. I think Alex Shelley is very much like that. I think Alex Shelley has transcended one place. But so personally, who I think is having the absolute best matches would be Will Ospreay, right? I think the highest level in the ring, the most athletic, the most talented I can judge and see, and the person whose matches I most look forward to consistently is Will Ospreay. However, I have a very high opinion of myself as a professional wrestler, but that's very biased because I am good enough at pro wrestling and I am in control enough to do exactly the kind of matches that I want to do. I'm at the level now where I imagine a match, I do it, and it is exactly how I imagined, and it is consistently my favorite kind of match because I mean for it to be that way.
Man, I thought you were going to say yourself because usually everyone I talk to, it's always me, it's always me, it's always me. But it's nice to hear an objective answer.
So, an
Nice
objective answer
answer.
to an extremely subjective
Exactly.
question.
Yeah, no, absolutely 100%. And you talked about worldwide superstar and wanting to do this and you want to do that. Can you do that in Impact Wrestling? Do you feel Impact's gaining a lot of momentum. Especially when you're bringing in Trinity, you got guys like Will Ospreay coming in. You got yourself, you got the Alex Shelley, the Dudleys are back together. There's a lot of positive vibes, a lot of good momentum right now towards Impact. To get to the goals you said you want to get to, can you do it there?
I think you absolutely can. I mean, I think myself, Josh Alexander, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley all proved that on October 9th in Sumo Hall when we all fucking killed it and did a great job representing Impact Wrestling in one of the biggest New Japan Pro Wrestling shows of the year. And I think it is like the wrestling world as a whole, all companies, it's all changing so incredibly fast. If you pay any attention to the news, it's not just Impact. Everything is changing and moving at a never before seen pace. And I think that the growth Impact Wrestling has made in the last year absolutely tells me that there is no limit to what I can accomplish in Impact.
I agree with that 100%. And I know we're short on time, so we'll ask this last question. Why should fans watch Mike Bailey, Will Ospreay at Bound for Glory Saturday night?
Because 2023 is the greatest era of professional wrestling of all time. And I know that's a controversial statement because people have a lot of nostalgia, but there is so much more access to information, so much more openness in Impact Wrestling. And I mean, for me, there's my match, right? We've been hyping it up for 20 minutes. You don't need to hear more about it. But Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander, two of the best wrestlers in the world, absolutely. But also, like Trinity versus Mickie James. Impact has the best women's division in the world, bar none. I mean, what Trinity has done as a Knockouts champion has been absolutely incredible. If you didn't see the main event to Rebellion between Trinity and Deonna, that was absolutely some of the best women's wrestling you will ever see anywhere in the world, and you can't see it anywhere but Impact. But also, like Chris Sabin versus Kenta, which is just a dream match by any definition. PCO versus Rhino versus Macklin versus Moose in a Monsters Ball match. This card has absolutely everything you could want in a pro wrestling show, and at the best, highest level.
Be able to catch Mike Bailey as he takes on Will Ospreay from the Cicero Stadium in Cicero, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. You'll be able to watch that on demand on DAZN next week. But you can also catch all of Impact Wrestling on DAZN in select international markets. Mike Bailey, we've never chatted. This has been great. Thank you so much for the time today. It is greatly appreciated. I'm looking forward to the match on Saturday with Will. Be in the house on Sunday. I won't be able to make it to the pay-per-view, but I'll be at the taping on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens at the tapings. And thank you so much for the time. And can't wait till we talk next time when we see some more cool toys in the background.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.